right, now let's be honest. Maybe it's the mountain views, the water, the coffee culture, the job opportunities, or just the whole Pacific Northwest vibe. There's something about this area that people fall in love with really quickly. And honestly, there's a lot to love here. But before you pack everything up and make the move, there's really some things that you need to understand first. Because while Seattle can be an amazing place to live, it's definitely not for everybody. This isn't gonna be one of those videos where I sit here and I try to tell you everything's perfect. I wanna give you the real picture of what living in Seattle actually looks like in 2026. We're gonna talk about housing costs, traffic, weather, the Seattle freeze, homelessness, the job market, and some other things that people are really genuinely surprised by after moving here. Because as much as I love Seattle, and I truly do, there are definitely challenges that come with living here too. My name is John Hodson, and on this channel, we talk about what it's really like living in Seattle and the surrounding suburb, the good, the bad, and everything in between. So if you're thinking about moving here, or even if you're just trying to figure out which neighborhoods fit your lifestyle best, you're definitely in the right place. And real quick, if that's the kind of info you're looking for, make sure to subscribe because we put out new Seattle videos every single week. My contact information is below, and if you'd like to schedule a call or a Zoom with me, I'd love to chat. All right, so let's start with probably the biggest shock for most people when they're moving here, and that's of course the cost of living. Seattle is expensive, and there's really no sugarcoating it. Housing prices here catch a lot of people off guard, and especially if you're moving from somewhere with a lower cost of living, which is most states. Even outside of Seattle itself, prices can feel extremely competitive. And honestly, it's not just buying a house either. Rent prices are high too. We talk to people all the time who move here for a job opportunity thinking, oh, I'm getting a huge raise, and then quickly realize how everyday expenses add up. Groceries cost more, gas costs more, eating out costs more, childcare is expensive. Even basic things like parking can really add up fast. As someone raising a family here, these are things we think about too. You start thinking less about just the house itself and more about the overall lifestyle. Like, how long is the commute? Are there parks nearby? Are these good schools? Is there enough yard space for the kids or dogs? Can you realistically afford the monthly payment and still enjoy life, take a vacation, go out of town for the weekend? Because honestly, I've seen people stretch themselves too thin financially just to say they live in Seattle or somewhere on the east side. And that stress catches up really, really fast. A huge reason housing stays expensive here is because demand has stayed incredibly strong for years. You've got major employers like Amazon, Boeing, Google, Meta, and tons of other tech companies bringing in high-income workers from all over the country. Then you combine that with Seattle geography. You've got water on one side, you've got mountains on the other. There's only so much room for expansion. So even when new construction happens, and we do have a decent amount, it still struggles to keep up with the demand. And depending on the area, bidding wars are still pretty common. By the way, if you're trying to figure out what areas fit your budget best, feel free to reach out anytime. My team and I help people relocate here all the time, and honestly, one of the biggest things we do is help people narrow down which neighborhoods that actually fit their lifestyle and budget. Okay, all right, let's talk about traffic, because this is another thing that surprises people really quickly after moving here. Seattle traffic can be really, really brutal. And honestly, something that people really underestimate is that distance really doesn't mean anything here. You'll look at Google Maps and think, oh, it's only 15 miles away. And then suddenly you're sitting in traffic for an hour, sometimes longer. And it's not just Seattle anymore either. You see it in Bellevue, Linwood, Everett, Tacoma, Kent, Renton. Traffic is spread throughout pretty much the entire metro area. And once the rain hits, everything slows down immediately. Throw in construction, an accident on I-5, ferry backups, or a Seahawks game, and things can get bad fast. Honestly, as a dad with 2 young boys, commute time matters to me way more than it did when I was younger, because time sitting in traffic means less time with your family, less time for dinner, less time at practices, less time at home. That's why I always tell people moving here, don't just focus on the house itself, focus on your daily lifestyle. Look at Google Maps on the time you will be commuting so you can get a realistic picture of what it's going to look like. I've seen buyers purchase what they thought was their dream home, only to realize 6 months later they absolutely hate the commute. And that's a much, much harder problem to fix. All right, you know we got to talk about the weather. Yes, the rumors are mostly true. Seattle definitely has long stretches of gray skies and drizzle, especially from fall through spring. Now, personally, I've grown up with it, so I really don't think about it much, and you kind of adapt to it over time. But for people moving here from sunny states, the adjustment can be pretty hard. And honestly, I think what affects people more than the rain is actually the darkness during wintertime. In December, it gets dark sometimes by 4 or 4:30 in the afternoon. If you work a regular job, there are days where you leave for work in the dark and you come home in the dark. That catches a lot of people off guard. Even people who love Seattle sometimes struggle during their first winter here. You really have to be intentional about staying active and getting outside regardless of what the weather is. For our family, we've just learned you can't just sit inside waiting for sunshine, because you'll be waiting a while. The kids still go to the parks, we still walk the dogs, we still get outside even if it's drizzling. And honestly, I think that mindset makes a huge difference living here. People who embrace the outdoors year-round, they really just adjust way better. Now, with that said, Seattle summers are unbelievable. Seriously, beautiful. Summer here is hard to beat. Long daylight, low humidity, mountain views everywhere, people out on the water, the whole city just comes alive. And honestly, once summer hits, everybody forgets how rough the winter felt. And if you've been wondering what Seattle is actually like month to month throughout the year, definitely subscribe, because we're constantly posting videos showing different neighborhoods, suburbs, and everyday life around the area. Another thing people ask me about is the Seattle freeze. Is that a thing? And honestly, there is definitely some truth to it. People here are usually polite, but maybe not overly outgoing right away. I think part of that is that a lot of people already have established routines. Work, kids, hiking, skiing, family life, and social circles can feel a little harder to break into at first. And honestly, moving anywhere as an adult, it's hard. You don't automatically meet people the same way you did in school or college. That's why I always encourage people moving here to intentionally build your community around you. Join activities, explore neighborhoods, get involved. For us, having kids and dogs has honestly helped a lot. You naturally meet people at parks, church, neighborhood events, dog parks, neighborhood walks, and eventually Seattle starts to feel a little bit smaller and more connected. And once you do make friends here, they tend to be really genuine, long-term friendships. Okay, another topic people ask me about is homelessness and public safety. And honestly, it's something you're definitely gonna notice in certain parts of Seattle, especially downtown and a few surrounding neighborhoods. You'll definitely see more visible homelessness, addiction, and mental health struggles than some people are used to. Now, I always try to be balanced when talking about this, because Seattle is still an amazing city with incredible neighborhoods and great people. But I also don't think it helps to pretend that these issues don't exist. For a lot of families moving here, this becomes a major factor when deciding where they want to live. And honestly, Seattle is very neighborhood specific. One neighborhood can feel completely different from another just 15 minutes away. And a lot of people initially think they want to live right in downtown Seattle. And then after spending a few days exploring, they realize, maybe I'll prefer places like Edmonds, Bothell, Sammamish, West Seattle, or even the East Side, because it just better fits their lifestyle. And that's totally cool. Okay, when it comes to jobs, Seattle's still one of the strongest job markets in the country. Obviously, tech is huge here, but there are also strong opportunities in healthcare, engineering, aerospace, education, and biotech. The upside is there's a lot of opportunity here. The downside is competition can be intense. And for people outside tech, salaries don't always stretch as far as you'd expect because, we already talked about it, the cost of living is so high. That's why financial planning matters so much before moving here. And honestly, Seattle just isn't for everybody. If you absolutely need sunshine year-round, hate rain, want super affordable housing, or prefer a slower pace of life, Seattle might be a tough fit. If you want a giant house on a huge lot without spending a fortune, this market can feel frustrating really quick. And if you're not into outdoor culture at all, hiking, water, skiing, trails, mountains, you probably won't appreciate one of the biggest reasons people pay so much to live here in the first place. But here's the thing, despite all the challenge we talked about, people who love Seattle really love Seattle. There's a reason people move here and stay here. You've got mountains, water, forests, incredible summers, amazing food, strong job opportunities, great coffee shops, and access to nature almost everywhere you go. There are very few places where you can paddleboard in the morning, hike in the afternoon, and still make it downtown for dinner. That combination is what makes Seattle special. At the end of the day, Seattle's an amazing place for the right person. It's beautiful, active, full of opportunity, and unlike anywhere else in the country. But it's also expensive, competitive, gray for part of the year, and comes with some real challenges too. My goal with this channel is just to give you the most honest picture possible so you can decide whether this area fits the lifestyle you want. And if you're thinking about moving to Seattle, whether that's next month or next year, feel free to call, text, or email anytime. My team and I love helping people relocate here, and we genuinely love to help however we can. If you want more insights into living in Seattle, click this next video where I compare Seattle living versus Eastside living. Thanks so much.